knock on our door was soft, almost apologetic. It was the kind of knock that barely broke the silence of the evening, a hesitant sound that suggested the person on the other side was unsure whether they should even be there. My wife and I exchanged a glance. Who could it be at this hour? It was late, well past dinner time, and we weren't expecting anyone. A sense of curiosity, mixed with a touch of apprehension, filled the air between us. I opened the door to a young university student, thin and weary, eyes fixed on his shoes. He stood there, shoulders slumped, looking as though the weight of the world rested squarely upon him. His clothes were neat but worn, and his face held a mixture of exhaustion and embarrassment. He apologized for the late hour and quietly asked if we had any food to spare. His voice was barely a whisper, laced with a humility that tugged at our hearts. He seemed hesitant to even ask, as if he were acutely aware of the imposition he was making. His story came out in fragments. His job had cut his hours, leaving him with barely enough to cover his rent, let alone food. The financial strain of university life, coupled with the unexpected reduction in income, had clearly taken its toll. His money was gone, and he hadn't eaten in 2 days. The gnawing emptiness in his stomach was a constant reminder of his desperate situation, a stark contrast to the abundance that many take for granted. Hunger and shame weighed on him, a heavy burden that threatened to crush his spirit. The shame of having to ask for help, of admitting his vulnerability, was almost as painful as the hunger itself. We didn't hesitate. There was no room for deliberation, no need for a lengthy discussion. His need was evident, and our response was immediate and instinctive. My wife Denalyn welcomed him in, her face radiating warmth and compassion. She opened the door wider, gesturing for him to enter, her eyes conveying a silent message of reassurance and acceptance. She didn't ask for details, she just saw someone in need, a fellow human being struggling with a basic necessity. Her empathy transcended the need for explanations. She simply recognized the shared humanity that connected them. We invited him to our kitchen table, the heart of our home, a place where we gather to nourish both our bodies and our souls. The same table where we share meals and prayers, laughter and tears, the joys and sorrows of everyday life. It's a place of connection, of belonging, of unconditional love. As Denalyn warmed leftovers, I sat with him, trying to ease his discomfort and create a sense of normalcy. We talked about his studies and dreams, the aspirations that fueled his late nights and early mornings. He wanted to be an engineer, to build bridges between people, both literally and figuratively. He envisioned a world where infrastructure connected communities and fostered understanding. He ate hungrily, and with each bite, the burden on his shoulders seemed to lighten, replaced by a glimmer of hope. The warmth of the food, the kindness of strangers, began to thaw the icy grip of despair. We packed him food for the next day and told him our door was always open, a promise of continued support and a safe haven in times of need. He left with a full stomach and, I hope, a fuller heart, carrying with him not just sustenance but also a renewed sense of dignity and hope. We didn't know his last name. We didn't ask. His identity was secondary to his immediate need. He was simply a young man who needed a meal, a reminder that even the smallest act of kindness can make a world of difference. We closed the door and prayed for him, sending our hopes and blessings into the universe, trusting God to see him through, to guide him on his path, and to provide him with the strength and resources he needed to overcome his challenges. Life moved on, and honestly, we forgot about it, caught up in the whirlwind of our own daily routines and responsibilities. But God didn't. His watchful eye remains ever present, a constant source of comfort and guidance. Years drifted by, seasons changed, and life continued its relentless march forward. The days turned into weeks, the weeks into months, and the months into years. We moved, seeking new opportunities and a fresh start in a different town. It was a bittersweet transition, leaving behind familiar places and faces, but also embracing the excitement of the unknown. Our children grew, their laughter echoing through the halls, their dreams taking shape before our very eyes. We watched them learn, stumble, and rise again, each milestone a testament to their resilience and potential. And as time went on, the memory of that hungry student, the young man we had helped so briefly, faded into the background of our lives, becoming a distant echo in the corridors of our minds. We often wondered what had become of him, hoping that he had found his way in the world. One Sunday after church, as we mingled with the congregation, a well-dressed man approached me with a confident stride. He looked vaguely familiar, a ghost from the past, but I couldn't quite place him. His face held a certain warmth, a hint of recognition, but the years had blurred the lines of memory. "Pastor Max?" he asked, his voice a gentle rumble. I nodded, my curiosity piqued. "You don't remember me, do you?" He smiled, a knowing glint in his eyes. I apologized, feeling a pang of guilt. So many faces had passed through our church, so many stories had been shared. It was impossible to remember them all. He began to tell me about a cold, unforgiving night, a desperate student struggling to make ends meet, and a simple meal offered at our humble table. Suddenly, as he spoke, I saw him, not the successful, well-groomed man standing before me, but the hungry, vulnerable boy from all those years ago, his eyes filled with a mixture of hope and despair. Tears welled up in both our eyes, a silent acknowledgement of the profound connection that had been forged on that fateful night. He said that simple meal, that small act of kindness, had changed everything for him. It had been a turning point, a beacon of hope in his darkest hour. It wasn't just the food, though that was certainly welcome. It was the unexpected kindness, the restoration of dignity, the feeling of being seen and valued as a human being. It was the simple yet powerful sense that someone genuinely cared about his well-being. That act of compassion, he explained, had given him the strength and determination to keep going, to persevere through the challenges that lay ahead. He found a better job, one that offered him a living wage and a sense of purpose. He dedicated himself to his studies, burning the midnight oil, and eventually graduated with honors, a testament to his hard work and dedication. And against all odds, he achieved his lifelong dream of becoming the engineer he had always aspired to be. Now, years later, he was a respected partner in a major engineering firm, a leader in his field, building bridges, both literally and figuratively, just as he had always hoped to do. With a grateful heart, he handed me an envelope. "This is for the church," he said, "but really it's for you and your wife. A small token of my gratitude for a debt I can never truly repay." He explained that our simple act of kindness had been the first stone in the foundation of his new life, the catalyst that had set him on the path to success. Inspired by our example, he now leads a ministry dedicated to helping struggling students, providing them with the resources and support they need to succeed. He was paying it forward, passing on the gift of kindness and compassion that we had given him so many years ago. We had planted a small seed, never knowing what it would become, and now, standing before us, was a mighty forest, a testament to the power of a single act of kindness. We opened the envelope. Inside was a check, far more than a simple thank you. It was a gift that would help our church build new bridges in the community. We had given a simple meal, a forgotten act of compassion, but the return was immeasurable, not just financially, but in the way God's kindness echoes through time. The young man we helped was now a pillar of his community, blessing others. We thought we were helping a hungry boy. We were investing in a future leader. Kindness is never wasted. It transforms, multiplies, and returns in ways we can't predict. Every knock on our door became a new possibility. The student you help today might be the philanthropist who funds your ministry tomorrow. You never know. So you love, you give, you serve, and trust God with the harvest. Looking at these old photos, with all the faces and stories they hold, really reminds me of my own family. The connections, the shared history, the ups and downs, it's all there, etched in time. We had an uncle, a figure who, for a time, seemed larger than life. But life has a way of humbling us, and he eventually fell on hard times, facing challenges that none of us could have predicted. In his better days, when fortune smiled upon him, he hadn't exactly been known for his kindness. He carried himself with a certain air. He was proud, often critical, and always seemed to be looking down on us, as if measuring our worth against some impossible standard. His words could sting, and his disapproval was palpable. Then the tide turned, and he lost everything. The things he valued most slipped through his fingers. His business crumbled, his home was gone, and his pride, once his shield, lay shattered at his feet. He was stripped bare, left with nothing but the consequences of his choices. And sadly, most of the family, remembering the sting of his past behavior, turned their backs on him. They couldn't find it in themselves to offer support. They were remembering his arrogance, the way he had made them feel small, and the years of condescension. The wounds were still too fresh. But my father, a man of unwavering compassion, saw beyond the past and recognized his brother in need, a fellow human being struggling to survive. I remember overhearing my parents' hushed conversation late one night, their voices laced with concern and uncertainty. My mother was hesitant, understandably so. He'd been so cruel, so dismissive, for so long. Could they really open their home to someone who had treated them with such disdain? My father listened patiently, his brow furrowed in thought. Then he nodded, a slow, deliberate movement that signaled his decision. He acknowledged. But he's still my brother. Blood is thicker than water, and family is family. We simply can't stand by and let him sleep on the street. We have a responsibility to help. My father's faith wasn't complicated or filled with dogma. It was a simple, unwavering belief in the power of compassion. It wasn't about justice or retribution, but about extending mercy and offering grace, even to those who seemed undeserving. And so, my uncle, humbled and defeated, came to live with us, a stranger in a familiar land. He found himself in the same modest house he had once belittled, a stark reminder of how far he had fallen. It was incredibly awkward at first. He was uncharacteristically quiet, his eyes filled with shame and regret. But my parents, with their boundless capacity for empathy, treated him with unwavering kindness and respect. They welcomed him, gave him a seat at our family table, a symbol of inclusion and acceptance. They shared our food, our laughter, and our lives with him, never once reminding him of his past transgressions. They even gave him a key to the house, a powerful gesture of trust and belonging. They made a conscious decision not to dwell on the past, to let go of the hurt and resentment, and to focus on the present. They simply loved him unconditionally and without reservation, offering him a safe harbor in his storm. They looked past the man he had been, the arrogant and critical figure who had caused so much pain, and instead they saw the man he could be, a man capable of redemption, growth, and perhaps even kindness. Living with my uncle was a daily lesson in grace. My father never treated him like a burden. He included him, gave him chores, helped him look for work. It was the gospel in action, kindness lived out in quiet corners. Slowly, my uncle changed. The constant, undeserved kindness softened his heart. One evening, I overheard him weeping. "Why are you doing this? After everything I said?" My father put a hand on his shoulder. "Because you're my brother, and because God forgave me for so much more." In that moment, a bridge was built. My uncle never became wealthy again, but he became a better, kinder man. He found a modest job and his own apartment, but never forgot what my parents did. The relationship was healed. The bitterness washed away. Kindness didn't bring a financial windfall. It brought reconciliation and healing. It proved that kindness is not a reward for good behavior, but a tool for transformation. These stories echo in scripture. In 2 Kings, we meet Naaman, a powerful commander with a secret leprosy. In his household was a young Israelite girl, a captive slave with no power or status. She had every reason to be bitter. Naaman was her captor. Yet when she saw his suffering, she didn't rejoice. She saw an opportunity for compassion. She told Naaman's wife, "If only my master would see the prophet in Samaria, he would cure him." She could have stayed silent, but her faith and compassion were stronger than her pain. She looked past her own suffering to see someone in need. Her small, humble voice set in motion a miracle. Naaman listened. He went to Israel, expecting a grand solution. Instead, the prophet Elisha sent a messenger, "Go wash in the Jordan 7 times." Naaman was furious. He wanted a spectacle, not a humble command. He almost missed his miracle because of pride. But his servants spoke up. "If the prophet had told you to do something great, wouldn't you have done it? Why not this simple thing?" Their gentle wisdom helped him see past his pride. Naaman humbled himself, washed in the river, and was healed, not by power or wealth, but by obedience to a humble command. Thanks to the faith of a servant girl and the wisdom of his aides, God used the overlooked and humble to accomplish his work. What do these stories teach us? Never look down on anyone. You never know the value hidden inside them or the role God has for them. The world measures by status and wealth, but God looks at the heart. The student at my door looked like a failure, but God saw a future leader. My uncle seemed lost, but God saw a brother who could be redeemed. The Israelite girl was a nobody, but God saw a missionary. When we look down on someone, we're disagreeing with God. Our job isn't to judge. It's to love, to serve, to look for the hidden value in every person. Jesus saw treasure in clay jars. He knew the world's outcasts are often God's chosen instruments. A person's current situation is not their final destination. God delights in using unlikely people. He chooses the humble to confound the proud, the weak to shame the strong. When miracles happen through the overlooked, everyone knows it's God. Who told Naaman the news? A slave girl. Who convinced him? His servants. Who fed the hungry student? An ordinary couple. Who healed my uncle's heart? A forgiving brother. God uses the little people, the ones without titles or positions. You may feel ordinary, but God sees a messenger. Your simple kindness, your quiet encouragement. These are the tools God uses to change the world. You don't need a platform, just a willing heart. So, ask yourself, who are you overlooking? Who do you dismiss as unimportant? The person who serves your coffee, the family member who's made mistakes. Are you seeing them as God sees them? The story of Naaman would have ended in tragedy if he hadn't listened to humble voices. Our stories too can be diminished if we ignore those we deem insignificant. Live with your eyes and heart open. See every person as a carrier of divine value. Practice small acts of kindness. Share your meal. Offer encouragement. Choose forgiveness. Listen to quiet voices. You never know what harvest God will bring from those seeds. Let's stop ranking people and start loving with God's radical, unconditional love. Look for the student at the door, the uncle in need, the servant with a word of hope. For in serving the least of these, we are truly serving Him.